Open quotes, "To you I lift up my eyes, O you who are enthroned in the heavens. Behold, as the eyes of servants look to the hand of their master, as the eyes of a maidservant to the hand of her mistress, so our eyes look to the Lord our God, till he has mercy upon us. Have mercy upon us, O Lord, have mercy upon us, for we have had more than enough of contempt. Our soul has had more than enough of the scorn of those who are at ease, of the contempt of the proud." Close quotes. Introduction. Psalm 123 is a poignant and deeply reflective prayer that captures the heart of dependence on God in the face of contempt and scorn. It is categorized as a song of ascents, suggesting that it was likely sung by the Israelites as they made their way to Jerusalem for worship. This psalm resonates profoundly with anyone who has experienced feelings of humiliation, disregard, or disdain from others, particularly in challenging times. In our contemporary world, many individuals find themselves in situations where they feel belittled or mocked, whether in their personal lives, workplaces, or communities. This psalm offers a framework for understanding our response to such experiences, turning our gaze toward God and seeking His mercy. This reflection will explore the themes of looking to heaven for mercy, the significance of humility, and the hope that arises from our dependence on God. As we delve into the verses of Psalm 123, we will uncover the timeless wisdom that this ancient prayer holds for our lives today. Lifting our eyes to God, verses 1 to 2, the psalm begins with a powerful declaration, "To you I lift up my eyes, O you who are enthroned in the heavens." This imagery of lifting our eyes signifies a posture of humility and dependence on God. In moments of distress, it is common to feel overwhelmed by our circumstances, drawing our focus downward into despair. However, the psalmist intentionally chooses to look upward, to God who reigns in heaven. The phrase, "you who are enthroned in the heavens," serves as a profound reminder of God's sovereignty and majesty. In the midst of our struggles, it is essential to remember that God is not only aware of our pain but is also in control of all things. This acknowledgement invites us to reorient our perspective, shifting our focus from our problems to the greatness of God. In verse 2, the psalmist draws a parallel between the eyes of servants looking to their masters and the eyes of a maidservant looking to her mistress. This metaphor illustrates the dependence and expectation of receiving help from those in authority. Just as servants wait for their master's direction, we are called to wait patiently and expectantly on God. In our fast-paced society, patience can be difficult. We often seek immediate solutions to our problems, desiring quick fixes for our distress. However, the psalmist encourages us to adopt a posture of waiting, looking to God for mercy and guidance. This act of waiting is not passive, it is an active expression of faith, trusting that God will respond in His perfect timing. The cry for mercy, verse 3, the psalmist's plea for mercy is poignant, "Have mercy upon us, O Lord, have mercy upon us." This repetition emphasizes the urgency and depth of the cry for help. The psalmist does not merely request mercy, he implores God for it, acknowledging the overwhelming nature of his circumstances. Mercy is a central theme throughout the Bible, representing God's compassion and willingness to forgive. In our lives, we may find ourselves in situations where we feel we have exhausted all options and are left with nothing but the hope of divine mercy. The psalmist's cry reflects a universal human experience, the need for grace and compassion in times of distress. The call for mercy is particularly significant in the context of contempt, as expressed in the following verse. When we face scorn or derision from others, it can be easy to feel defeated and isolated. However, turning to God in our moments of need reminds us that we are never alone in our suffering. The weight of contempt, verse 4. In verse 4, the psalmist articulates the weight of contempt he has experienced. Our soul has had more than enough of the scorn of those who are at ease, of the contempt of the proud. This verse highlights the painful reality of being looked down upon by others. The phrase, "those who are at ease," suggests a sense of complacency among those who mock or scorn, further intensifying the psalmist's feelings of alienation. Experiencing contempt can be incredibly debilitating. Whether it comes from peers, family, or society, being scorned can lead to feelings of worthlessness and despair. The psalmist's expression of having more than enough signifies that he has reached a breaking point, an acknowledgement of the emotional toll that contempt can take. The distinction between the proud and the humble is critical here. Pride often manifests itself in scorn, as those who feel superior derive a sense of power from belittling others. The psalmist's cry for mercy serves as a counter to this pride, reflecting a humble recognition of our need for divine assistance. The call to humility. The themes of humility and dependence are woven throughout Psalm 123. In the face of contempt, the psalmist does not seek to defend himself or retaliate. Instead, he looks to God for help. This response teaches us that true strength lies in acknowledging our vulnerability and turning to God in our weakness. Humility requires us to set aside our pride and recognize that we cannot navigate our struggles alone. It is a conscious choice to rely on God rather than our understanding or abilities. This perspective shift allows us to experience the mercy and grace that God freely offers. In our daily lives, we may encounter situations where pride tempts us to assert ourselves or defend our dignity. However, Psalm 123 challenges us to respond differently. Rather than seeking vindication or recognition from others, we are invited to lift our eyes to God and seek His mercy. God's promise of mercy. As we reflect on Psalm 123, we must remember that the cry for mercy is not in vain. Throughout Scripture, God assures us of His readiness to respond to our pleas. In moments of distress, we can find solace in the knowledge that God is attentive to our cries and desires to extend His compassion. The psalmist's emphasis on mercy invites us to explore the richness of God's character. He is a God who is merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love. Psalm 103 verse 8. When we lift our eyes to Him, we are reminded that His mercy is greater than our struggles. In times of contempt or humiliation, we can cling to the promise that God sees our pain and cares for us deeply. He invites us to bring our burdens before Him, trusting that He will provide the comfort and support we need. The journey of faith. Psalm 123 serves as a reminder that our journey of faith is often marked by challenges and trials. In a world filled with contempt and scorn, it can be easy to lose sight of God's presence. However, the psalmist encourages us to keep our eyes lifted toward heaven, recognizing that our hope lies not in our circumstances but in our relationship with God. Faith requires us to trust in God's character, even when we cannot see His hand at work in our lives. It is a commitment to believe that He is sovereign, even amidst suffering. By lifting our eyes to God, we position ourselves to receive His mercy and grace. As we navigate our own journeys, let us remember that God is intimately aware of our struggles. He invites us to bring our doubts, fears, and pain before Him, assuring us that we are not alone. In moments of contempt, we can draw strength from the promise that God sees us and is with us. Conclusion. Psalm 123 teaches us the importance of looking to heaven for mercy in the face of suffering and contempt. The psalmist's humble plea serves as a model for our own cries for help, inviting us to lift our eyes to God and trust in His unfailing love. As we reflect on this psalm, let us remember that our worth is not defined by the scorn of others but by our identity as children of God. We can approach Him boldly, knowing that He delights in extending mercy to those who seek Him. In times of distress, may we find solace in the promise that God hears our cries and is eager to respond with compassion. Let us lift our eyes to Him, trusting in His sovereignty and grace as we navigate the challenges of life. Psalm 123 encourages us to embrace humility and dependence on God, knowing that He is our refuge and strength. In a world that can often feel harsh and unforgiving, let us remember the mercy that is available to us through Christ. May we, like the psalmist, look to heaven and find our hope in the One who reigns above all. In every moment of contempt or scorn, let us draw near to God, inviting His mercy into our lives and finding peace in His presence. As we journey forward, may we hold fast to the truth that our God is merciful and kind, ready to embrace us with open arms as we seek Him.